far-fetched as it may seem. In fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
What is up, my dudes? It's the Reddit Fairy, and I'm back with some juicy stories from r/MaliciousCompliance. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. How dare you exist in only one place at once? Wow, I have a lot of these. A bunch aren't overtly malicious, just end up being this way because of the ridiculousness of government contracting. I work as an everyman IT contractor for government, which is a problem in itself. There are only 2 IT guys, me included, for over a dozen building campus. In my side of government work, since you can't really be fired unless for extreme circumstance, you get a corrective action plan. Last month, I got one such corrective action plan for literally not being in 2 meetings at the same time. Dingbat director's schedule. Again, only 2 IT professionals for multiple meetings overlapping each other. And I have personally been yanked from one meeting, back to another. On my comments for last month's CAP, I stated, did not supply cloning device. No one got it, or even reached out for comment. Just last week, I was at the head site director's office. I told her, tomorrow administration has me scheduled for a 10 a.m. and a 10:15 in different conference rooms. She said curtly, I know, make it happen. I called off that day. On my return the next day, I had 2 CAPs waiting for me, one for each meeting I missed. Wow, really? Do they they expect him to clone himself, I guess. Make it happen. I'm not that allergic. This happened a while back before everyone was allergic to everything, and there were a dozen different menus depending on your allergies. I was waiting tables in a 20-table Mexican restaurant, and I was the early on for dinner at 4 p.m. Note, the food there was crazy good. The restaurant was dead, and I was the only server on. A 4-top walks in, so I seat them. I give them a minute, and I come over to take their drink orders. I begin my welcome to restaurant. My name is, and I'm cut off. Karens weren't a thing then, but she was a Karen. Karen, I have a very specific list of allergies, so I'm going to have to ask a lot of questions. Me, not a problem. We will make sure to get you a great meal, and I'm allergic to nuts, eggs, gluten, had just become a thing, milk products, soy, MSG, shellfish, and any animal product. Not a thing. Me, okay, could you slow down? I just want to write this down. Quick background. Growing up, one of my best friends had a peanut allergy. I had seen him have to use an EpiPen a couple of times, and that shit is scary. One of my good friend's sons has celiac, and it is also a bitch. So I always treat allergies with the utmost importance. She proceeds to list the allergies again, making sure I knew how dangerous any of those things could be to her. Gotcha. I grab some drinks and drop them off. When I do, I am chastised for not bringing out the chips and salsa fast enough. Again, it's around 4 p.m. and I'm the only one there. I apologize and go grab the chips and salsa. I drop them off. Karen, why didn't you bring the green sauce? Ugh. Everyone knows you're supposed to get it with the chips. You must be new. Me. Which green sauce, as we have several, and I'll have to check to make sure they don't have any other products you're allergic to. Karen, I don't know what it's called. The green one. Now, I know which one she probably wants, as it is very popular, and since it is requested quite often, many servers just bring it out with the chips. Me. Do you mean the insert sauce name? Karen. Yes, bring me that one. I go into the back and can already tell how this table is going to go. Going to be run ragged for a couple of bucks. It's becoming clear that she isn't allergic to these items, but just either doesn't like them or likes the attention and sympathy she gets for making a big deal about how she could literally die if she ate some. Time for some malicious compliance. The sauce she wants is freaking delicious. It's a blend of jalapenos, cilantro, tomatillos, and ranch. Ranch is made with mayo. Mayo is made with eggs. Nope. Me. I'm sorry. I talked with the chef and that sauce is made with eggs, which was on your list, which I show her I have written down. Karen. Oh, that's why I must have gotten so sick the last time I came here. Looks over to her friends. That last server was so stupid to give it to me. Didn't I tell him I was allergic? I could have died. Her co-diners asked if they could have some of the green sauce. She says she can't even be around anything she is allergic to, so no green sauce for the table. She proceeds to order the veggie enchiladas and explain to her co-diners how hard it is to go out to eat with her condition. I take her order, go talk to the chef, and come back. I explain to her that the vegetables are sautéed with a bit of marinade that contains soy, but I can get them grilled without it. Rice and beans? Nope. Cooked in lard and chicken stock. She asks about the veggie burrito. Same move. Go to the chef and come back. The burrito tortilla is a double no. Gluten and lard. Stuffed peppers? Nope. Rice again. She is starting to get defeated, and her co-diners are getting visibly annoyed with her shenanigans, as they ordered a good 20 minutes ago. There's almost nothing on the menu that fits her needs. Karen. Well, what can I have then? Me. I could make a salad with some oil and vinegar dressing. Maybe add some grilled corn, tomatoes, and avocados. Karen. Ugh. Just bring me the veggie burrito. I'm not that allergic. Me. Ma'am, you told me earlier that any of your allergies could literally kill you. I cannot, in good faith, bring you something you have told me could kill you. Do you have your EpiPen? With so many things around you that you are allergic to, I am worried about your health. Karen, just bring me the damn salad. As I walk away, I hear her mutter, I've had it in the past and it has been fine. I'm not that allergic. I bring out their food and everyone else has super tasty rellenos? I'm sorry if I butchered that. Tacos, burritos, etc. And Karen has a super boring salad. Luckily, her friends paid and left a good tip. Edit. The co-diners took some food to go. I made sure they had their green sauce. Oh my god, what was the green sauce? Was it like guacamole or something like that? Oh, I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation of rellenos. I don't know. I'm sorry if I did. Now I want Mexican food. Theoretical malicious compliance. So, my town has this law about occupancy called U+2. You can only have 2 roommates that are unrelated to you or each other. Obviously, you can tell why this is bad, right? Here's what we intended for malicious compliance. My sister and her boyfriend thought that they should get an apartment or a house, who have to follow the rules, with me or one of her boyfriend's brothers. As a result, we're well within the law, as everyone is living with 2 roommates who are unrelated, and the third is related to us. Crafty. Tell us that we must share chores equally and that we have to do them before we do what we want? Okay, we will. I'm the youngest in the family, and I have 2 older brothers. The story. As I was getting old enough to take part in the chores, my mother attempted to split up the chores 3 ways equally. And she said that we have to do them before we can go do what we want, like watch TV or play games or whatever. Chores before play. Split them up equally. Seems simple enough and fair. Except, my brothers and I knew that if anybody gave the other any leeway, even an inch, it would be taken as rule and not the exception. Malicious compliance. Remember how none of us gave the other any leeway? Not even an inch or one exception? If one of us tried to get out of it, the other 2 would complain. If somehow one of us didn't do chores, the other 2 wouldn't do theirs. Seems fair. 0 work spread out equally is 0. So whenever one of us had a friend over, the other 2 would not give the other an inch. We would refuse to do chores. Or if they were away, we'd refuse to do chores. My parents would try to fight it, but we'd throw it back at them. If X isn't here to do chores, we won't. It's all equal. Like you said, spread the chores equally. After a couple of months, my parents gave up trying to make the other 2 kids make up chores of the one that didn't do it. Also, when my second brother was old enough to get a job, he got a nighttime job, overnight Friday nights and Saturday nights. So when I tried to do my chores Saturday morning, I got yelled at as he was still asleep. But remember, I couldn't go and play before I did my chores. I ended up not doing chores as I was prevented from doing so. My mother again tried to say, do it after he wakes, but me, not wanting to wait to go play, threw it back at her. I either do it now or I go and play now and wait until next week. Like you said, I can't play until my chores are done and you're stopping me. Guess I can't do it. She lost the argument quick and didn't try. I ended up not doing any chores for a couple of years. What was an attempt at fairness to spread out chores between 3 kids turned into basically a union members not doing any more than our share. These kids are smart little shits. I would have got my... These kids are funny though. Cell phone company has a policy that you must call their customer care team to make changes on your account. About 5 years ago, my dad got sick and had to have brain surgery. Our cell phone bill was always been a family plan that my sister and I pay into monthly because it keeps costs way down for all of us. Also, we have been customers of this cell phone company, we'll call it Print, since I can remember, like 16 years now, and we have always enjoyed their service in our area. When Dad got sick, I took over the bill because he was physically and mentally handicapped, and my mom didn't want to deal with the intricacies of the bill on top of everything else. Everything was fine for a few years, but about 2 years ago, from the time of me writing this, we started having a metric fuck ton of problems with Print. I had traded in and upgraded my sister's phone during a promotion, which I was told in store would be half off, but we were getting charged full price. I went to upgrade my phone, which I had been told was eligible, only to wait an hour for the staff in store to tell me that it wasn't eligible until I changed something on the account. Basically, every time I tried to change phones or make any changes to the plan, something would go wrong and I would have to change something on the account. The frustrating part about this is that every one of those incidents required me to call Print's customer care support phone line because the people in the Print owned and operated store could not make changes to my account. Just noting that this was an actual Print store, not a retail third-party location. This usually lasted 2 to 3+ hours per incident because you had to explain what was happening to each person who helped you, and they never seemed to relay information if they passed you on to a specialist or manager. Often, I would spend hours on the phone until someone promised to fix the account. Sometimes this worked, but more often than not, they added a promotion which ran out a couple of months after they fixed it, and then everything went to shit again. After about a year of these issues, one of these fixes stopped working, and our bill jumped up about $60 a month. As if that wasn't enough, the way they billed everything was confusing, and our account got double charged for the current month. I was so fed up, I finally decided to do something about it. It was already evening when I figured all of this out, so I printed out all the bills from the past year, made notations about all the inconsistencies, and cracked open a cold one to relax to the rest of the evening. I showed up to the local print store at 3 p.m. the next day during one of their busier times. I waited in line to be helped and then asked for one of their supervisors. I made sure to be extremely polite, but firm, that I wanted the double charge and inconsistencies on our account sorted out. The assistant manager explained once again that I must call the customer care phone number in order to take care of the issues I was having with my account. So I did exactly that. I pulled out my previous bills with notes, my laptop with my print account pulled up, and finally my phone, and I dialed the customer care support line inside the print store. See, what I figured out after I think at this point 60 plus hours of speaking on the phone with print representatives in other countries was that at the owner of the account, I could assign anyone temporary privilege to speak to the customer care about my account. So I explained to the agent on the phone that I was authorizing the assistant manager in the store to access my account for the day while we sorted out all the inconsistencies. I figured that if I had to waste my day off on the phone with their customer care team, then I might as well actually get things sorted out instead of ending up frustrated like always. The assistant manager was able to make notes on the account, and after the first few hours realized what print had put me through. It ended up taking us over 5 hours to sort out the issue with the account, during which the assistant manager was tied up the entire time. I felt a little bad for the store and some of the customers who had to wait because the assistant manager was tied up and the store manager was trying to do everything, but we ended up getting about $600 refunded from mistakes and from being double charged that month. I thanked the assistant manager for his time and told him that I hoped I wouldn't have any more issues with my account. He and the store manager apologized for all the inconvenience and likewise hoped I wouldn't have any more issues. TLDR. If you find yourself having to waste your time in order to get help from a cell phone company, find a way to use their own policy and use their employees' time. I just found r/MaliciousCompliance, and I wish I would have found it sooner. Love all the stories, and it reminds me of a blog I used to read called Behind Closed Ovens. Hope you enjoyed my story. 100% real and OC. Wow. Whew, that was a good one. You don't normally see a lot of good happening from those stories. Usually it's the customer getting screwed from cell phone providers. I've been screwed a couple of times. But working in IT, I've worked for a provider before too, so I do know some keywords you can say to kind of get them to bend to your will. And it absolutely always pays to be polite, even when you are pissed more than anything. Just bite your tongue as long as possible. It usually pays off. You wanted a Whopper with cheese combo with cheese. You get exactly that. This happened 20 plus years ago, but I still get a good laugh out of it. I was working for Burger King and had the privilege of being drive-through order taker. Now at the time, our menu went like this. Value meal number 1, Whopper combo. Value meal number 2, Whopper with cheese combo. This is important as it directly plays to the malicious compliance. For the most part, everyone who came through the drive-thru was pretty decent and knew the menu. But we would still get those idiots who would ask for a number 1 with cheese. And when we would correct them and ask, do you mean the number 2? About 50% of them would say, oh, yeah, that's what I want. But then there's the other half who would argue all day long that they want a number 1, add cheese. If memory serves, it did not cost any more to ring it in that way, the way they asked. But then you get the genuine idiots who tried to order number 2 with cheese. We would always point out to them that the number 2 comes with cheese, and we would always read back the order. You wanted a Whopper with cheese meal, the number 2? But I clearly remember to this day one guy who refused to listen to what we were telling him, and he kept repeating that he wanted the number 2 with cheese. At that point, cue the malicious compliance. I rang the order exactly like he asked. Whopper with cheese combo, extra cheese. This cost an additional 39 or 49 cents. I can't recall exactly. The funny thing was, at this time of night, the guy who was making the sandwiches would have a headset on to listen to the orders coming in, so they would be done when they got to the window. And he clearly said, I guess he wanted extra cheese, so I gave him extra cheese. When the guy got to the window and I told him the price, he started in saying that it was too high. At that point, the manager steps over and I told him that he repeatedly told him that number 2 had cheese, and since he kept asking for it, it was assumed that he wanted extra, hence the extra charge. After that point, I do not remember seeing/hearing him again. We also got people who wanted to order a Whopper Jr. plain, and we gave up trying to explain that a Whopper Jr. was simply the regular hamburger meat with lettuce and tomato on it because they were so convinced that a Whopper Jr. was somehow different. I'm guessing they're probably in a location with a lot of bars around. It's my guess. Because I used to go to this McDonald's that was downtown in a heavily it was dense with a lot of bars. There were a lot of bars in the area, and it was just the crazy people that came in. They just don't listen because they're so drunk. Just walking in, falling on each other. There's a Burger King right across the street. Same thing there. You have people like drunk sing-alongs in the middle of the parking lots, walking in front of cars, getting mad because you get their burger order wrong when they didn't say it right in the first place. This is plausible. Army Sergeant humiliates me in front of our platoon. Let me destroy his chance of being promoted. Hey guys, this story comes from last year while I was enlisted in the CA Army National Guard. During my time in the National Guard, I was assigned to the Recruit Sustainment Program. In this program, new recruits are prepared for basic combat training. At the time, I was a private first class, and I reported to an NCO who I will refer to as Staff Sergeant G, SSGG, as his assistant squad leader. SSGG was a toxic soldier who applied to officer candidate school, but was rejected. To make up for the loss, he tried asserting his dominance in other ways. For example, during combatives Army MMA, he ordered new recruits with 2 hours of training to fight him. This is the equivalent of asking a white belt to fight against a black belt. Furthermore, he displayed blatant favoritism by assigning the worst jobs, such as fire watch, where you needed to stay up during the night cleaning the barracks, to those he did not like. While our relationship wasn't great, we got along decently for the most part. However, that began to change when I received a 4-year national scholarship from ROTC, another officer training program. Besides covering the tuition of going to college, the scholarship also guaranteed that you would commission as an officer when you graduate college, meaning I would soon outrank him. In order to transfer out of the National Guard and into ROTC, I had to get a form signed by my unit commander, which I submitted to SSGG, who was then expected to pass it up the chain of command. However, the first sign of our relationship fraying was his forgetfulness to pass the form up. Every time I asked for an update, SSG gave me the runaround, claiming that the form slipped his mind and promised to pass it on in a few hours. After a month, I decided enough was enough and asked a third person to help me with the paperwork. She went above and beyond and got my paper to the commander within a week. SSGG was not happy that I flouted his authority, causing our relationship to take a significant turn for the worse. He began to nitpick at my uniform, looking for any slight mistake that he could punish me for. One day, it was that I missed a small patch of facial hair while shaving. In the Army, we are expected to be clean-shaven. Well, another time, it was my name tape, which was slightly ajar after a day of field training. SSGG brought down the hammer on me, and I would be yelled at in front of the squad of recruits we were training. For every infraction, I did 100 push-ups. I took these punishments in stride, as not only was SSGG technically correct, but also arguing with a superior in front of a bunch of new recruits would send the wrong message to a bunch of future soldiers. As I continued to avoid confrontation, SSGG continued to grow bolder. Throughout the following months, he ramped up his nitpicking. Eventually, he called me out in front of a platoon, 4 squads of recruits. "Hey, OneTrippingbengali," SSGG inquired. "What is your ASVAB score?" The ASVAB is a test you take when entering the military. The percentile you score becomes your actual score. So if you placed in the 84th percentile, you have an 84 on the test. Not sure where he was going, I responded. "SSGG, I got 99 on the ASVAB, the perfect score." He stifled a laugh and rhetorically asked me, "With such a high ASVAB score, why aren't you going to West Point, the Army's prestigious service academy?" knowing full well I turned down a letter of assurance from West Point. Stunned by such a question, I stood there quietly. He exploited my shock and turned to the platoon and said, "Even a smartass like OneTrippingbengali can't get far in the Army on his brains alone." As he broke out laughing away, I was livid. I swore I would get revenge against SSGG for humiliating me in front of the platoon. But I knew I couldn't openly defy him. I waited for a chance to get back at him, a chance which he kindly gave me at the end of the day. During the day, we had been conducting training on military operations in urban terrain using paintballs. We had a mock village in which we had been fighting in all day. Obviously, the village had been covered in paint as untrained recruits mag-dumped paintballs at each other. The people responsible for the maintenance of the facility were fine with this as long as we cleaned it up ourselves. As per company equal 4 platoons of 4 squads policy stated, we could not go home from training until we had cleaned up all of the equipment and locations we had used, which included the mock village. Once training completed, SFCM, SSGG's boss, assigned our squad the task of cleaning the village. However, SSGG decided he had better things to do than supervise cleanup and ordered me to take over. However, we had no cleaning supplies and went to SSGG to raise my concerns. Seeing me approach, SSG turned to me and yelled, "OneTrippingbengali, what part of clean the village did you not understand?" in front of the entire squad. "Sergeant," I explained, "we can't clean as..." "Can't do what?" he interrupted. "You want to be an officer, so go out and lead. I won't be here to hold your hand in combat. I can't solve all your problems. Make do with what you have and improvise." turning to his friend, SSG stated, "Can you believe this guy wants to be an officer?" Cue malicious compliance. Looking out into the field and seeing cut grass, I got an idea. "Yes, Sergeant," I said, and walked back to our squad. When I got to them, I stated, "We don't have any cleaning supplies, so we are going to improvise. You see the piles of cut grass out on the field? Go grab them and use them as brushes." My squad looked in shock and awe. I gleefully responded, "Sergeant's orders. We are to make do with what we have." 2 hours later, we were still scrubbing paint off the walls. Meanwhile, every other squad in the company had finished their assigned tasks and were waiting for us to finish our work so they could go home. SFCM was getting annoyed. He correctly surmised that there was no reason why we should be taking so long to finish a simple task and decided to investigate. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him approaching and turned to greet him. "What in the actual fuck are you doing, Private?" SFCM screamed. "Why are you trying to scrape paint off with grass? Why the hell are you not using your brushes?" "Sergeant," I responded, trying not to break out laughing, "I asked SSGG for supplies, but was ordered me to do with what we have." SFCM couldn't believe what he was hearing. He went off to the recruits in our squad to independently verify my claim. When 4 different recruits told the same story, he beckoned me over and called SSGG. "SSGG?" FSCM asked in his calm and controlled firm voice. I heard some mumbling, which I assumed was SSGG greeting, following by the roar of, "Why the fuck did you not give your squad cleaning supplies?" from SFCM. I was on the brink of dying of laughter, while SFCM yelled at SSGG over his incompetence while demanding he bring over the supplies. All SSGG could muster between each roar was a quick, "Yes, Sergeant." After SFCM finished his tirade, he looked at me and said, "Carry on, Private," as he walked away. As soon as he turned the corner, I burst out laughing. 5 minutes later, SSGG drove up with cleaning supplies. Sweating, he distributed the cleaning supplies, worried that SFC would find him in person and tear into him again. Half an hour later, we were back with the rest of the company getting dismissed. However, the day did not end there for SSGG. Through the grapevine of a friendly NCO, I found out that SSGG had gotten in a lot of trouble with the company's leadership over his stunt. Not only had the 1SG, SFCM's boss, privately tore into him, but he also made sure the incident showed up on SSGG's evaluation report, which will make it far harder for him to get promoted. As far as I know, SSGG is still in the same position he was in last year, while I have started my officer training. It sure feels good knowing that SSG got what he deserved. Edit 1. For those in the know, I was a split ops and a green phaser when I left the National Guard. I was released through a conditional release. Edit 2. For those wondering why this unit seems so weird, it is because this is not a traditional unit within the Army. It is a National Guard RSP unit, a unit for recruits who haven't shipped to training. At the time of this story, I was a split ops soldier who had just finished BCT. Because split ops soldiers are not MOSQ, we are of no use to our actual units. Thus, we return to RSP, where we are assigned to a squad and assist the SL in whatever they want. For me, it was normally acting as a teaching assistant during classes on land nav, first aid, etc., and acting as a lane walker. Edit 3. For those asking why I chose to not go to USMA, I got into a school that is more academically prestigious than West Point. As the school offered me a scholarship in conjunction with ROTC, I will graduate debt-free. To me, this negated USMA's major advantage over its peers. Furthermore, I have the freedom to do what I want with my summer. For example, this summer, I've been in India studying Hindi through the ROTC program called Project Go. I would never had the opportunity to do this in West Point. In the end, I will be a 2LT regardless of whether I go to USMA or commission through ROTC. So given ROTC's clear advantages, I opted for ROTC. Wow, that was quite the story. I guess, yeah, who's laughing now? Your lease is still valid, even though you were evicted? Okay. I'll try to keep the details vague enough to keep me anonymous, hence the dummy account. This might be a little long, so buckle in. I am the landlord of some apartments in the city. I sign the lease agreements and go over the basics with tenants, although they don't usually want me to spend hours delving into the fine print. 99% of the time, it's a breeze, and everything is fine. One lady, let's call her Karen, had been paying her rent via a new bank account and new checks for the last several months. All of a sudden, we got several chargeback fees on our account. She had put a stop payment on the checks and closed the account. I immediately called her. Me. Hey, Karen, it looks like your checks bounced for the last few months. I just wanted to make sure that everything is okay. Karen. Oh, no, I promise I'll get this fixed. Me. Okay, you've been a good tenant in the past, so I'll give you a month. Needless to say, a month passed, and she didn't pay, so I called her again. Me. Hey, Karen, we still haven't received payment, so I'm afraid we'll have to file for eviction. Karen. Oh God, no, I'm an old woman. I can't afford to be evicted. I'm trying so hard to pay. Can you give me another shot? Me. As long as you pay before the court date, the eviction doesn't have to go through. The court date arrives, and guess who hasn't paid yet? At court, the judge rules for a 24-hour notice to vacate. Karen, in tears, comes up to me afterwards. Karen, can you please give me another chance? I can't afford to go anywhere else. Me, I'm sorry, Karen, but the only way I could do that is if you paid off the debt, signed a new lease agreement, plus a first month's rent, plus new security deposit. And I don't think that's going to happen. Goodbye. So I left, and I thought that was that. My maintenance guy would come in a few days to do the inspection and clean up, and then we'd put it on the market. He shows up a few days later, and there's a problem. They're still there. So I call the sheriff to schedule a set-out. A problem, though. According to the sheriff, the 24-hour notice was no longer valid, as we had struck up a deal afterwards, so the court had reversed the eviction decision. I had no recollection of having decided that this would happen. I called the court, and they informed me that the eviction was no longer valid, as apparently I told the sheriff that I was giving her more time, invalidating the decision, etc. What happened was that Karen had called the sheriff and told him that the court had reversed the decision because of a non-existent deal. She had then called the court and told them that the sheriff could not evict her as I had waived the notice. And she had used my words, twisting denial of an extension into a deal. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I sent Karen a copy of a new lease agreement asking for the debts, in addition to the rent for the first month, and a new security deposit. Her lawyer then contacted me. Yes, she had the money to hire a lawyer, somehow, informing me that, in fact, her old lease agreement was still valid as my deal. You know, the one that would require a new lease agreement, invalidated the eviction decision. So I filed for eviction on the grounds that she had not paid for several months now, 5 to be exact, and therefore had invalidated her old lease agreement. And then I read her old lease agreement. I already knew these contracts pretty well, but like I said, I don't usually delve into the minutiae. Minutiae? I don't know what that word is. This time I did. We show up at court. Karen has her lawyer. Karen is bursting, grinning like a fool, like she's won the lottery. Her lawyer looks fairly happy as well. The judge asks me to speak. Me. I would like Karen to leave the apartments, but she is refusing, despite the fact that according to the court's last decision, she should have left over a month ago now. Judge. And Miss Karen? Lawyer. Miss Karen cannot be ejected from her home without a new notice. Yes, she has not yet paid past due rent. However, she and the landlord struck up a deal, giving her the time she needed to pay via verbal agreement. This deal, made directly after the last court date, invalidated the last decision. So Miss Karen will require a new decision, and therefore a new notice, because she can rightfully be evicted from her home. Until then, her lease agreement is still valid. Insert legal crap. Judge. And landlord, what do you have to say? Me. Well, Your Honor, I have to agree. They have made a very, very compelling argument. Karen and I did indeed make a deal, giving her the time she needed to pay. And yes, her old lease agreement is still valid, I guess. Well, according to the terms on the still valid lease, there are some additional things that the court needs to be aware of that I'd like to go over for clarification. I'm sure you have a copy, Your Honor? Judge. Yes, I do. Me. And you have a copy, lawyer? Lawyer. Yes, I do. Me. Excellent. Well, Your Honor, if you take a look at Section 4, Subsection A on page 2, you will see that after 10 days of non-payment, a late fee of $100 is applied. If you continue reading to Subsection B, you will see that after 15 days of non-payment, additional late fees of $10 per day are applied until full payment is rendered. If you continue to Subsection C, you will see that failed payments necessitate a chargeback fee of $50 per failed payment. If you will continue, Your Honor, to page 4, Section 7, Subsection F, you'll see that if a tenant is in any way responsible for a loss of rent, including leaving an apartment in less than move-in ready condition, failed payments, or lastly, refusal to vacate in the case of an eviction, the tenant is responsible for payment of said loss of rent in addition to any other debts owed. In addition, on page 8, Section 14, Subsection A, you'll note that the tenant is responsible for any and all legal fees resultant from the eviction process, including attorney's fees, such as for the attorney I hired to help me review this lease agreement. Finally, on page 10, the last page, Section 17, Subsection B, you will see that the tenant is responsible for all HVAC services rendered on their unit. As we sent in company to fix the unit at Karen's apartment at her request, we have the invoice here for the replacement unit, in addition to the totals for all of the fees listed. At this point, the lawyer has gone completely pale. It's clear that he has more concern that I would fight the whole deal thing than the terms of the lease he thought he'd have to fight to keep valid. Karen looks utterly shell-shocked, her mouth slightly agape, like a child confused by a game of peekaboo. The judge, meanwhile, is completely unfazed until I hand her the invoice, alongside my maths, a spreadsheet, and a piece of paper with the total debt owed circled and highlighted at the bottom of the page. Her eyes widened to the sides of her mouth as her jaw dropped with an audible gasp. Me. As you can see, Your Honor, the total owed is in excess of $16,000. I will happily accept the payment in the form of a cashier's check. I'd hate to have to charge yet another $50 fee for failed payment should another personal check bounce. Judge. Lawyer. Do you have anything to say? At this point, the lawyer looks like he's about to pass out. Karen seems to have stopped breathing. The judge remains silent for a moment and then collects herself. Judge. I am afraid you'll have to address that matter of debt in a different court than this one, landlord. We are here only to judge whether Miss Karen is to be evicted from her home today. Me. Oh, if she wants to stay, I'd be happy to let her, as long as she agrees to continue to abide by the terms of the lease agreement, specifically those clauses outlined above, and pays the debt owed today. Judge. I'm going to rule for a 24-hour notice to vacate, unless Miss Karen can produce payment at this moment. Karen sits, still, quiet, speechless even. Her lawyer is eyeing the window. I like to think contemplating his decisions in life that led him to this point. Maybe thinking about jumping. I don't know. Judge. Right. A 24-hour notice to vacate. And landlord? Me. Yes? Judge. You'll want to file those charges in small claims court, or a higher court if it exceeds the amount that you can legally pursue in small claims court. Me. Already filed, Your Honor. The case has now been resolved, and needless to say, I got a fairly significant bonus, in addition to a slight raise. Edited to add a TLDR. Tenant was evicted, but lied to get out of eviction, claiming her old lease was still valid. I then used the terms of her old lease to get a payout of, at the end of it all, about $20,000. And my boss gave me a big chunk of it as a bonus. Boom! Alright, my dudes, that's all the stories I've got for you today. Those are some pretty juicy malicious compliance stories, I think. I had a lot of fun reading those ones, actually. If you guys liked it, as always, hit that like button, leave a comment, let me know which one was your favorite story. And as always, I'll leave the link in the description for my Discord, my social media, as well as the links to the stories I read. And if you have a story of your own, head on over to Reddit, r/RedditFairy. You can submit your story there, and who knows, maybe I'll read it in my next video. Also, I got another link in my description. If you really like the video and you're feeling super generous, you can donate $3 to buy me a coffee. I don't really need it. I just do these videos for fun, and I have a full-time job. But like I said, if you're feeling generous, you love the video, you want to show you love the video more than just a like, there you go. There you have an option. So, also, guys, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification if you want to be alerted when I have future videos with content like this coming out, so you never miss one. So until next time, have a good one, guys.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem. In fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.